I'm going to work on the calves, but I'm going to work on the calves in a completely different way that people in my industry just aren't completely familiar with. This is going to allow me to work on a 300-pound guy if I want, completely overwhelm them with pressure, and do so in a way that's completely effortless to me. And what I'm going to do is come in and I'm going to lift, and I have this sort of, what do they call it? There's a name for this in yoga, a pigeon pose. There's a little bit of, I'm to the side. I'm not stacked up like this. I'm seated down to the side like this. And what we wind up with is this big, broad, rolling her calf out on my thigh. Now, is that too much, Kristen?
Yep.
Is it close to too much?
Yes.
I'm not applying hardly any pressure. I'm just using my hands to move her leg. As I go in and do this, I'm just rolling out my quads and my adductors. A lot of pressure. Now, how big and broad is that side? If I was doing that, it's like these two structures right here on my arm. How big and broad is that? It's huge. Most massage therapists do not have a tool like this. Or I should say they're not using this tool when they're on a table. This is why I'm such a big mat work fan, because I feel like it changes the body mechanics enough that the work is approachable to anyone. Just like this crazy dude named Bob Ross who had a little afro who did wet on wet technique. That made the happy little trees. Oh, look, it's so easy. Look, clouds. Look how easy. I used to spend hours trying to make clouds. Now it takes 5 minutes. Rolling out on my thigh. If I choose to focus on the lower portion of the leg or go up, I can just lift her leg and scoot down, or lift her leg and move my way up. I'm pressing primarily into the following muscles. Gastrocnemius comes from the same root word, I think it's Greek, for belly, gastrointestinal tract, gastrocs, the bellies of the calves. Those are the more superficial calf muscle we see on runners, where they split. I'm rolling out her gastrocs right on my leg, right here. This doesn't look, to me, all that physically impressive. She's about to jump off the mat.
Yeah.
She's like, oof, oof, feels like a lot of pressure. And then as I'm working through, increasingly giving a little more pressure, we get to soleus. Soleus is a larger, flat muscle that's underneath the more superficial gastrocnemius. I'm rolling out soleus, and one of the things I can tell you guys is if you have plantar fasciitis, I highly suggest you try this on someone and work on their calves and work on their soleus. I see a lot of foot pain coming from this area. As I'm doing this, just continue to roll her out. I'm going to stack. I'm going to find a good spot that feels dense to me. How's that right there?
Oh my God. That's where the gremlins live.
The gremlins. Oh, nice. Don't feed them after midnight. Don't give them water. If I come in on top with an elbow right into tibialis anterior, right up on the outside of the lower leg. So to give you a good camera view on this, I've got her stacked. She's pressing down into the calves and the soleus, the gastrocs, but I'm going to stack my elbow on top. I'm stacking my elbow right on top of tib anterior. If you look at this from a different camera angle, I'm going to show this in a second, you're going to see that my elbow is essentially right above my thigh. I'm sandwiching her leg. She's dead. Dead. She wakes up, laughs, dead. It's like Bob Ross, he puts me to sleep. You know what I'm saying? It's so relaxing. It's like, oh, look, we can paint a little troop right here. I'm like, oh, Bob. I'm going to lift and move just a little bit higher. Just move like a ½ inch. Right in there. The reason I moved, and this happens organically, as you work on people, you'll notice that piece of tissue, when you press into, say it's tib anterior, there'll be a spot and it feels like, huh, the other part of the muscle feels more free moving and soft, and then all of a sudden it feels kind of dense. Normally you're going to spend a little more time pressing where it feels dense. It feels more innervated, if that, I don't know if that's the correct word. It feels more active. It feels more intense, maybe lightly painful. If I'm worried about pressure, I can always ask, Kristen, do you want more pressure or less?
I'm good.
She's good because I have learned how to stack body weight, just like, oh, man, Bob Ross was pushing the paint into that can. He was fighting that canvas. He had an industrial, like, what, easel? Yeah, he had like an
You're cut off from
industrial
Bob Ross.
easel. Why? I don't give a shit. Talk about Bob Ross all day. So as he's pushing into it, do you get a sense when he's on camera of how much pressure he's using?
Yes.
No. He can say it, but do you really?
I mean, you guess you really don't know.
See, and but no.
Kind of like what we're doing.
But this is the comparison, because when he takes that little knife and he goes to the mountain and he goes very, very light, very, very. He says it again and again, very, very light, very, very light pressure, just enough to get the paint to adhere to the canvas. And in other times he's like you can hear it scraping the canvas, and you can pick it up auditory and you can hear his words, but you don't know until you do it. That is the big difference, in my opinion, based on what we're doing. It's the big difference I see with massage therapists. Do they know how much pressure I'm applying right now?
No.
When students are in class and somebody's getting feedback on pressure, a student does something to a student's arm, and then they say, hey, will you do it to me? And I go, sure. And I do it, and they'll say, what's the difference? And they're like, he uses more pressure. Almost 9 times out of 10. The students are learning, they don't know how much pressure to deliver.
Yeah, and they haven't received it to know.
Does my work typically deliver more pressure than people think of from Swedish?
Oh, yeah.
Or from deep tissue?
Yes.
But you can't feel that on camera. Now, I'm hooking into this spot right here. I'm on the tib anterior, right? But I'm about to change this, and I'm going to shear a certain direction, probably a little bit up, but we're going to let her choose. When I do this, Kristen, I'm going to shear just a little bit up or a little bit down. What do you prefer?
Up.
She prefers the up. She says with some sort of hesitancy.
Because it's lighting up.
Right there?
Yeah.
Still good?
Yes.
There we go. They're not necessarily going to know how much pressure I'm delivering. As I'm hooking this in, can you move your foot just a little bit for me? Because now I'm getting her to pull through all of those muscles. Getting her to move all of that. In a bit, I'm going to release pressure. Is your foot gone all pale and all tingly and numb?
Not feeling tingly.
Cut off any blood flow there?
I mean, I feel there's a little blood flow off, but it's not tingly or numb yet.
There's one set of muscles on the outside of the leg we're going to get into in just a second. And since she was giving me some movement, I'm going to let her do that for a second until she gets to a comfortable spot.
Was that a joke to find a comfortable spot? You're like, I was like, I'll stop moving.
Turn it up to 11. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Spinal tap. I'm going to slowly back off.